somewhat with these younger players. And I think his experience is key because, especially with younger defenders, an experienced attacker is very crucial to being able to score. He was second last year, showing he still does have his legs at his old age. He was only a goal back, and I think he definitely has a good chance of taking the scoring title this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's a great scorer as well. So we're going to get into our top two, and the main reason I picked Teo to success another Colombian goal scorer, Colombians back-to-back, is because I think Sporting is going to win the league. I think this is a very talented team overall. I think they have a good goalie situation right now that makes them a big favorite. By the way, we should have mentioned that Porto did bring in Iker Casillas, so that is something of note nonetheless. However, they did lose a couple of key players, like we said. You look at the team overall, I think this is a very good team. I think they've got good depth overall. Rui Patricio in goal. Teo, of course, Slimani. These are players that know how to get it done. And while I think that some of the other teams may have a tiny bit more talent, I think Sporting has that will to win. I think they're going to get a couple of those lucky games here and there. This is a little bit outside the box, but I do think Sporting will take home the title, meaning Porto finishes second. Carl, who do you have as your top two?
I've kind of alluded to this. I really do like Benfica to retain the title. I understand repeating is hard, but I see Sporting right on their tail, like you said. And I think this is, honestly, of all the different leagues in Europe, this may be the closest. I think this is the type of league where there's more teams that can win than a lot of other leagues where it seems like there definitely is one clear favorite. And I just don't see that in this league, which makes me really excited. Overall, though, I just think Benfica just brings back quite a bit of experience and talent, and it's something that gives them a light advantage. But Sporting right on their tail, in my opinion.
All right, so that concludes our predictions for today. Like we said, a quicker one, but we will be back, and our next show will be the big one. The Premier League prediction show will be our next episode, and we can guarantee you that that will be a very in-depth show. Of course, Carl, an Arsenal fan. I'm a Manchester United fan. Hopefully we'll have a couple of Spurs fans on. We're going to try to get as many fans on as possible, talk about their individual teams. It may as well be a Kickin It special, but definitely be on alert for that. It's going to be great. Alright, on to the next segment, and that is the transfer news. Of course, right now, though there are competitions going on, transfers are really what dominates the summer. And we're going to start out with a couple of Manchester United moves. We kind of seem to do this a lot, but it has been Manchester United that have really dominated the headlines this year. And we start out with Sergio Romero, the Argentine starting goalkeeper, basically done on a move to Manchester United where he would probably back up David De Gea, barring some last-minute transfer. But I do think Romero will end up completing the move. It is all but done. He's a very talented guy. You know, he's still got a pretty good amount of time to go, only 27 years of age. A goalie that, if De Gea leaves, could find himself starting, or at least competing with another goalie for that titular spot. I like the move for them, and I think it's a savvy move from Romero to find himself in a position where he could be playing for a bigger club. Carl, what are your thoughts?
Well, and I think the big part about this is that we've heard De Gea's name thrown around all over the place this entire summer. And I think that he's not likely to move now, but he could move during the season. That's not out of the question when we hit that transfer window. He could move next season. The idea here is that Man U wants another goalie. I think that was their biggest... I think that's the biggest sticking point for them for moving De Gea, is I feel like they weren't confident in the fact that they had another goalie there. And I think that with Romero there, I think De Gea's got to, have his alarm bells ringing and thinking that, he could be moved very soon.
I agree, and De Gea knows that he is on the way out. He's already said multiple times that he would like to move to Real Madrid. That is a team that is close to him. It's part of his heritage. He's from Madrid. He played for Atletico Madrid, and he would be a replacement to Casillas. So I do think next year will be on the way out. So Manchester United already starting to cover that. Well, today Manchester United played Barcelona, and a guy on the other team, Pedro, who was in the starting lineup, is rumored to go to Manchester United. There are talks going on as we speak. There are some who believe they've already completed the deal, which brings me to my theory that Pedro will not be flying back with Barcelona, but with Manchester United, or flying back to Manchester for a medical, though I really don't think he needs a medical after playing the scorching heat in San Francisco. He looked pretty good to me.
I think those medicals are funny. Like, in basically every sport, they have to do these medicals or the physicals or whatever you call in the different league. And it's more of a technicality than anything, honestly. And I've only heard of like one player ever failing that, and that was in the NFL, and I think it was Albert Hainsworth failed one of them. But honestly, I think for any top level soccer player in the world, these are no big thing, and they're really just a technicality.
I agree. So this seems like a move that's going to get done, and it will make way for Di Maria to go to PSG. And this is the real transfer we really want to talk about here when it comes to Manchester United. This is my other theory. I don't think Di Maria will be going to PSG. It's almost a done deal. There are rumors that they have gotten that deal completed. United play PSG next Wednesday. I will be in attendance. So that makes for a perfect time to really get that switch down. I remember a couple years ago, Federico Macheda went from, I believe it was Chivas to Manchester United. He played the first half with Chivas and played the second half with Manchester United. I have a theory that United will complete the deal before the game. He will play the first half with United and play the second half with PSG. And then that deal will be done. These theories are really out there. But I do think this deal will go down. I think it's an excellent signing for PSG. And while I would love to see Di Maria stick around for another year, I think he's a world-class player. I do think the money will be useful in bringing in Nicolas Otamendi or Nicolas Gaitan, bringing in Pedro, trying to get Ramos, potentially a big marquee signing. I don't know who they'd be going after. But there are rumors of Ronaldo. I just don't think that's going to happen. Nonetheless, I think it's a good deal for both teams, recouping as much of the money as they can possibly get. Carl, what are your thoughts on Di Maria to PSG?
I don't think he ever really found his place at Man U. Obviously, there were injuries and that, is part of it, and he's an extremely talented player, but whether it's that he doesn't belong in the Prem, maybe he just feels more comfortable in different leagues, I don't know exactly why, but Di Maria never seemed like he fit perfectly into this squad. I think it's a good move for him because I think he's worth more in the money to Man U than he is as a player to them.
All right, so that concludes the Man U section, the mandatory, I guess it is now, Man U section. But because Carl is on, I went out of my way to find Arsenal stuff so we could talk about his favorite team, the Gunners. And we're going to start with the young boy, Danny Ceballos, who could be making a move from Real Betis to Arsenal. This guy has been coined by Wenger as the next Fabregas, and we all know Fabregas was one of the successes for Wenger, being able to bring him in, develop into a player who now plays for their rival, which is awesome. But I think it would be a great signing for them. I think it's good to have a youth infusion. I do have one question for Mr. Wenger. When you say you don't like Manchester United buying the title, yet you want to buy people to win, such as...
Well, I think the idea here, and can I you know what? I think that there is a little bit of an explanation here. Because when we look at this, it's kind of like, an MLB team saying they don't want the Yankees or Red Sox just to be able to go out and buy the title. Of course, it's a broken system, but you have to play in it, because you're not going to sign someone.
Exactly, that's my question. They brought in Alexis Sanchez for a massive deal. They brought in Welbeck. They brought in Sanogo, who barely ever played. They brought in Debussy. They brought in Callum Chambers. This is last year, of course. They brought in tons of people. And yet they play like they haven't signed anybody. And let's be fair here. Everybody buys the title. If you win a title, I don't think you can find a team that has won a title that hasn't bought it.
Sure. And I think that's just kind of the nature of European football in general. I think that at its core, yes, development matters, and yes, coaching matters, and we've seen that. But at its core, the most important thing is, are you one of the historically good clubs? Mm-hmm. And obviously there are outliers, but there's a reason that the top 4 or 5 in the Prem is almost always the same teams, because it's the ones with money, and if it isn't, it's the ones with new money, like Man City.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, back to the point. I think Danny Ceballos would be a great move in terms of youth. It is somewhere that they could, and I know they've got Ozil and I know they've got Cazorla, both guys who can play there, but it will be useful to have a guy like him coming up, give them more depth, and in the event that one of the two eventually wants to make a move away, maybe Aaron Ramsey makes a move away, which we're going to be talking about in a second, he's a guy who can come in and be an immediate replacement. Carl, what are your thoughts about that potential signing?
I think that the biggest thing is that Cazorla is getting a little older as well. Cazorla is 30 now. He could be on the way out at a certain point. Plus, this is an 18-year-old kid we're signing. This is not signing this player who's been playing for a long time, and he is somewhat of an investment in the future. And so I don't know if he's really going to be playing on the senior side until he's probably 20. I mean, it could be a couple years. And at that point, Santi Cazorla is probably not a starting level midfielder in the Prem. I mean, he's going to be 32 at the time in 2 years, or 33 when he's really ready to play. And at that point, I think it's time to hand off the torch, especially in a faster, quicker league like the Prem. Cazorla's already not a very fast guy. He's the type of player you don't like playing on FIFA with just because he doesn't have the pace. And I think that's important to bring in the youth and bring in someone with fresh legs.
I agree. There is the possibility, of course, that Aaron Ramsey could be on the way out, as Barcelona has shown interest. Ramsey came out saying that he was flattered by the interest. Of course, it is unlikely, though that is a potential move that Barcelona could be looking at in the future, once Iniesta makes his way out or if they need another player to fill in. I don't think this is a signing that's going to go down this summer, but it is something to keep your eye on in the future. This is how it starts. Teams putting in tiny bits of interest and eventually, making those big bids. If Barcelona does come a call and they do want to pay the money, I'd be hard-pressed to believe that Arsenal could resist a large chunk of change, especially because I think Ramsey, though he's a good player, they do have replacements, and if they do get the money, that allows them to bring in players that could be, replacements, depth picks, players that would be able to come in and potentially start as well. But, like I said, this summer, I just don't think it's going to happen. I do think Ramsey will be playing for the Gunners come next year. Carl, what do you think about Ramsey and the apparent interest from Barcelona?
I mean, this isn't the first time, and he is a well-liked player. I think he was a little disappointing last year. To put it bluntly, he was expected to have more of a breakout year last year, and it just didn't happen. But with him, I think he's going to maybe go at some point, and it really depends on what he does this season. The funny thing, though, is that he could have a good season, and that means they want to sell him, or he could have a good season, that means they want to keep him. It could go either way. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to whether or not Barcelona is willing to put in the money, because I think you're right, that Barcelona, if they want, they can get him, and it really depends on the season he has and Barcelona's interest.
All right, well, on to the next one. This is a transfer battle that's going down. Another London rivalry. Tottenham Hotspur versus Arsenal for the signing of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Chances of being sold, I'd say, are probably around 50-50 at this point. Dortmund had a disastrous season last year. New coach, we could see them maybe make a potential move. Aubameyang, of course, known as a pace beast, incredibly fast player. One of the ideal players, of course, for FIFA. Just a really fast guy. And he'd be a great signing for either team, valued around £22 million. And it is Arsenal versus Tottenham at this moment, and Arsenal does have that financial capability that Tottenham really doesn't quite have, but Tottenham have made a couple sales. So, Carl, make a prediction. Where will Aubameyang be playing next season? Tottenham, Arsenal, or still Dortmund? I
think he's going to stay at Dortmund because I don't think Tottenham's going to have the money. I think Arsenal could outbid them if they wanted to, but I think that something that Arsene Wenger came out and said is very crucial. We don't need strikers right now. We have an abundance of strikers. There are other positions that are definitely more crucial, and I think are bigger gaps. And obviously they covered one of those by signing Petr Cech this summer and getting that goalkeeper spot, but I don't think that wings and forwards are really their number one priority, and that means I don't think this signing is going to be their number one priority.
Yeah, I agree, and I think if they are going after a striker, it would probably be a guy who, has already proven himself as a big game striker in Karim Benzema, and I think Benzema fits that.
The funny thing, though, is that they went out and they offered Benzema, but look, once it got rejected, they didn't keep going after Benzema.
I understand that, but let's be fair here. Everything that goes on is a lot of speculation. They could theoretically still want him. There are rumors that the whole Ramos thing with Manchester United, the only reason they're doing it is to make Ramos look worse in the eyes of Real Madrid fans as the antagonist of the story. But nonetheless, I don't even know if Aubameyang really is the player they would want. I don't know if he really fits for that team. You put him up top. You look at Welbeck and Giroud. Those are two guys who can hold up play. They can wait for the game to come to them. Not necessarily the most talented with the ball at their feet, but they are good enough to be able to wait, hold up play, wait for Alexis Sanchez to get forward, wait for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to get forward, and then go from there. I think Aubameyang while he's good, is a lot more speed. I think